I figured I'd do something different and unrelated to my LP, see if it becomes something I'll do on a more regular basis. Most important is if I find it fun. The potential for getting money for doing this in the future is kind of secondary, but wouldn't mind it. Either way, this certainly has taken a hell of a lot of work to do, and I hope I manage to make it enjoyable. And then I'm also hoping YouTube doesn't take me down for copyright bullshit. You know how guys like the Nostalgia Critic and Spoonie review various TV shows, movies, whatever the hell they can get their hands on? Well, this is what this segment of the Demon's Playground is going to do. Look at shows, movies, and whatever else I can get my hands on and be interested in, and review them. And just like when I decided to let nostalgia and eagerness beat my common sense in this sort of decision-making when I decided to LP StarCraft first, I've decided to review an old childhood favourite series, MASH, and it's going to take more than one video to pull off, so bear with me, folks. First off, the name itself is an acronym for Mobile Army Surgical Hospital, and it's supposed to take place during the Korean War, though there are the occasional understandable slip-ups, such as some guns from the wrong period of history, or hairstyles that weren't exactly common in the time this was supposed to be taking place. The biggest flaw of all, if you could call anything a flaw in this series, really, is the length.
Frank, how long does this show go on?
Oh, about 7 more years than the war it's portraying.
We'll be here forever. We'll be here longer than forever.
Anyway, the way it works is, wounded soldiers are sent to an aid station where they get preliminary care and sent further back in the line to a MASH unit. The MASH unit makes sure they're stable, and if the patient needs more care, he's sent to a hospital even further out of the way. Things can get pretty busy.
Yes. More section.
Margaret, hemostat.
Hemostat. Your hemostat, doctor.
Huh? Oh. After 18 hours in here, the patient is more coherent than I am. Hawk, I'm getting drowsy. Turn that radio back on, will you?
Certainly. Click. In the morning, in the evening, ain't we got fun?
Could we get another station, please?
Better still, yank the plug.
All right. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Ship and all the Americans at sea. Flash, Korea. The U.S. Army has just declared sleep off limits to all surgeons. As a result, heads will be worn lighter this winter. And now, stay tuned for Burns and Allen over most of this same mouth.
Say good night, Gracie.
Who ordered the liver?
This table, waiter. You sure that's a liver? Looks like Illinois to me.
Fella, how many more poor unfortunates have we out there?
In round figures, too many.
Now, the inspiration of the TV show was a movie directed by Robert Altman, and the inspiration for the movie was a book written by Richard Hooker. By chance, in the vast library that is my childhood home, I could get my hands on that book. It wasn't a pleasant read. Suffice to say, if I'd read this book before seeing the movie or TV show, I never would have wanted to watch either. Seriously, when people who are supposed to be doctors, as in medical professionals, meet an epileptic prostitute, they shouldn't just screw her, even when she's having a seizure for the sheer fun of it. All in all, the book was just a racist, homophobic, sexist barrel of insanity. And frankly, I'm amazed it managed to inspire anything other than being locked away in the deepest corner of Warehouse 13. It is just not a good introduction to the franchise, and I doubt any of the sequel books are too much better. What's especially hilarious is that my copy of the book is too busy using imagery from and mentioning the people who made the movie that you might just forget Hooker wrote this. And frankly, I want to forget what he wrote. I think old Hawkeye can sum up the books pretty well.
No, to be fair, I have no doubt that he remembers it that way. More's the pity. And of course, there was some truth to what he said. It was October 11th, and we were in Korea. Other than that...
The movie is what actually helped make the series, since it decided to remove some of the uglier parts of the book. And, well, granted, there are still some slightly sexist bits. It's not exactly what modern days would particularly accept, but it is still a good movie, all things considered. So let's see what inspired the old TV show. We start the movie with a pretty upbeat tune. Assuming you can't manage to hear any of the lyrics, hell, the very name of the tune is slightly horrifying. Suicide is Painless. It's also one of my absolute favourite songs of all time, which probably says something about me. Just take a listen. Since I've been warned that apparently actually using the tune as the movie uses it would probably get me some trouble from YouTube, especially because of the music industry, I'm going to have to do my own little rendition of it. Here is the version without lyrics. Yeah, I'm not much of a musician. Here is the version with the lyrics. Through early morning fog I see visions of the things to be, the pains that are withheld for me. I realize and I can see that suicide is painless. It brings on many changes, and I can take or leave it if I please.
But I do not have the gift. I can play the notes, but I cannot make the music.
I can't just not do it. I'm sorry, I tried. Who gives a damn if I'm gonna get crucified by YouTube for this? I'm putting it in.
Through early morning fog I see visions of the things to be, the pains that are withheld for me. I realize and I can see that suicide is painless. It brings on many changes, and I can take or leave it if I please.
That's as much of the tune as I'm willing to risk putting into this. It's enough to, at the very least, give you an idea. Still a little worried that YouTube is going to come down on me for that little segment, but still, it just didn't feel complete without it. And, well, it's an interesting way to open what's listed as a comedy movie, that's for sure. Anyway, as the song plays, wounded are unloaded from a pair of helicopters and sent to be worked on by the medical staff. This sort of thing will be repeated in the TV series, only with an instrumental of the same tune. And this is the way people typically think of the tune. Another interesting bit is the fact that the movie was made with the intention of making one think of the Vietnam War. The sets, the clothes, the props. Apparently there was a fear that if they tried to make it an anti-war movie about current events, they'd never get through, which is probably a big reason why MASH has never really felt like part of the very war it claims to be portraying. I guess to people in the late 60s and 1970, Korea and Vietnam weren't that different. They were both Asian countries where the North was communist, the South was democratic. The North wanted to unite the country under communism. The United States came in because the government didn't want communism to spread. Really, the biggest difference is the outcomes. Anyway, just found it interesting. As a side note, Catch-22, a story that took place in World War II, was actually inspired by the Korean War. It's almost enough to make you wonder if Henry V isn't really about the 100 Years' War and is actually an allegory to the War of the Roses. Well, okay, the original book of MASH was written by a veteran of the Korean War about the Korean War, but it doesn't seem like a good number of war stories aren't actually talking about the war that they're supposed to be taking place in. Anyway, back to the movie. We're introduced to Colonel Blake, the commander of MASH 4077, and Corporal Walter Radar O'Reilly. The colonel is given orders, and Radar is acknowledging those orders before the colonel is even finished, sometimes starting and even finishing sentences before the colonel even reaches them. The poor bastard next to them is trying to write down those orders and gets confused in a hurry. This is pretty much Radar's shtick, regardless of the medium he's portrayed in. And as a fan of the series, it's comforting to see a familiar face in this familiar setting. Yeah, the actor for Radar is the only one who will come back for the TV series. Everyone else will be replaced and reimagined. But that's something to discuss in a later video. And, hell, it's pretty much the same damn set, too. Right down to where each and every tent is placed. A good amount of the humor is going to be stuff that the series does plenty of, so maybe it wasn't the best comedy for me to watch. I'm too inured to their style. I can enjoy it, but it brings more of a familiar smile on my face than any chuckles or laughter. Maybe other people will have a different reaction. Anyway, apparently the unit's going to receive 2 new surgeons, Duke Forrest and Hawkeye Pierce. The 2 arrive via stolen jeep, and when they arrive, there's some initial confusion about who they are. Understandable, they only just walked into the mess tent, started eating, and tried hitting on a few of the nurses without so much as a hello. Hawkeye isn't even wearing his captain's bars, and frequently tells people to refer to him as Hawkeye, and not Captain Pierce. Anyway, the colonel thinks he's stopping some random frontliners from harassing his nurses, and finds out they're the new surgeons he's been waiting for. He rolls with it pretty well, and they're introduced to some of the people they're going to work with. I couldn't catch all the names introduced to doctors here, other than Father Mulcahy, a dentist named Waltowski or something like that, and Radar. It's pretty chaotic. With the organic nature of the dialogue, which went into sheer chaos in this one scene alone, I had to check, and apparently a good deal of this movie is ad-libbed. The actors would look at the script once or twice to get a feel for what was needed in the scene, using it to help build the scene, which helps make everything feel more real. And it makes me wonder with every action each character makes if it was planned from the start or just something they threw in because they happen to like that take. Strangely enough, this is apparently the reason why the screenwriter, Ring Larner Jr., who actually got an Academy Award for this, hates the movie. He felt that not enough of his work got through to the end product. Strange indeed, considering the fact that Altman claims Lardner is one of the biggest reasons the movie turned out so well. Moving on, we're soon introduced to Major Frank Burns, their tent mate and fellow surgeon. He seems pretty reasonable at first glance, trying to teach a local kid named Ho-John to read English by using the Bible. Forrest offers the kid a more entertaining read, and in a severe bit of mood whiplash, we go to surgery. It doesn't last long, but dear God, we go from someone giving a kid a porn magazine to taking out somebody's kidney that's leaking enough to be the Mississippi River? I know that doctor's in the middle of a war, but couldn't we have gotten some kind of warning so those of us still chuckling didn't look insane?
Trappers!
How many?
Too many.
We just got through with 2 days of casualties.
Speak to the enemy, sir.
Immediately after surgery, we see Forrest and Hawkeye drinking in their tent. Burns doesn't take their offer to loosen up as well, and pretty much starts getting ready to bed, despite the fact that the sun's still up. but maybe there was a concern about getting good lighting for this particular scene. Anyway, Burns starts praying as part of his ritual to going to bed, and his new tent mates are apparently surprised. Granted, Burns does keep the praying going for a little longer than usual. His tent mates think he's crazy and want him out of their tent, going to the colonel to make it happen. But it seems like a pretty harmless way to deal with the horrors and insanity of war, so I don't see what they're so worked up about. At the same time, they request they get another surgeon, a chest cutter to be more specific. Strange, you'd think that a military hospital so close to the front lines would have some people who specialize in the chest area, since one of the basics in shooting is to aim for center mass. Things start getting pretty busy. Bodies piling up, and Blake quickly gives in to the demands of the doctors. So quickly, in fact, that you start to wonder who's in charge around here. The colonel, or these two new guys in the camp?
Pilot, you have got to get him out of our tent.
Your tent?
Yeah, get that noose in there. She doesn't look like the kind of keep you awake all night praying, huh?
I've been in the Army a long time. I know what you guys are trying to pull, but you're not going to push me around.
Oh, no,
Henry, not for the world would I push you around, but look, there is one more thing now that you're talking about it. We need a chest cutter.
Yeah, we gotta get an A1 chest cutter in here quick, Henry. We're gonna be in a hell of a lot of trouble.
Forget it. No mass unit has a chest surgeon. We're not about to get one.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah?
They're behind in the OR, and the pre-op ward is all jammed up. The helicopters and the ambulances are coming in full.
You guys are going to have to go to work early today.
On that overtime to 12-hour day? What the hell is that? You can raise all kinds of keen with you, Henry.
Boy, Henry, you work those kind of hours, you sure need your rest, and you can't get them with a sky pilot jabber into heaven all
Major
day.
Burns will be out of your tent in 24 hours. Tell him Captain Pierce and Captain Forrest are on the way.
Henry, there's just one more thing.
I told you Major Burns will be out of your tent in 24 hours.
Chest cutter.
No. I'll try, damn it. You can't ask any more than that.
Anyway, we're back in surgery where business is unfortunately booming. Hawkeye isn't in the OR, unfortunately. He's too busy trying to have sex with the nurse. Really? Is it so hard to use the PA system to tell everyone in the compound that they are wounded?
Attention, all personnel. Incoming choppers with wounded. Report to the hospital, all personnel.
Despite the fact that the nurse is saying she promised her husband she wouldn't have any wartime flings, she's being pretty active here with Hawkeye. To make matters worse, Hawkeye's apparently married as well. Well, there goes bloody fidelity. He's told by radar to go to his tent to welcome the new doctor, and he does so in sort of a Wait. What happened to surgery? The wounded? I mean, I know more time is passing in this movie than what we see on screen, but really? Really? We are just bouncing straight from... What amount of time has happened between this scene and the last one? Give me some kind of sense of time here, movie.
Anybody? Time?
About 0100.
0100? I worked around the clock.
Sure beats working around here.
I'm so bushed I can't remember my last patient.
He had quintuplets.
Oh, yeah.
Silencio! I mean, how can I operate with all this flapdoodle going on?
Where there's a war, there's a way, Frank. Wipe.
How many more out there?
I counted 19 when I came in.
19? There were 19 2 hours ago.
They restock the shells when they run out.
The new chest cutter keeps things pretty close to the chest, ironically enough. Give it vague answers to the various questions sent his way, and apparently brings around a jar of olives just in case he has to drink a martini. Yeah, we learned so little about him that last bit stuck out all the more. Anyway, we have another scene in surgery that doesn't lead anywhere, followed by some playful football in the mud, and we learn the new doctor's name. Trapper John McIntyre, and apparently Hawkeye played against him in football some years back. While the doctors are talking, we see a bunch of soldiers in line to enter the tent of Painless Pole Waldalski, the apparently best equipped dentist in the army. Really? Measuring each other's genitalia is one of the major pastimes around here? Okay, wasn't expecting that joke. Maybe it'll turn out to be important later in the movie? On to post-op, where apparently a patient of major burns is having some trouble, and doesn't make it. Now, while the orderly does arrive with the wrong equipment, Burns claims the orderly is the reason the patient is dead. Even if the poor kid brought the right needle for the job, there is no way he could have made it in time, so I don't see why he decided to give the kid that kind of emotional blow. It's the first real sign we've seen that we're supposed to hate Burns, and by God, he crossed a line or two in less than a few seconds. Trapper doesn't take too kindly to the unnecessary cruelty, and it apparently turns out this isn't the first time a patient has died in Burns' care, and he blamed it on someone or something outside of his control.
Every time a patient croaks on him, he says it's God's will or somebody else's fault.
Yeah, and this time he blamed it on some kid who was stupid enough to believe him.
And another thing is happening while all this is going on. A new nurse has arrived, Major Margaret Houlihan. In the middle of her tour, she catches Trapper giving Burns a well-deserved punch to the face. Now, since Houlihan and Blake saw the punch, Blake can't just ignore it like he wants to and make Trapper chief surgeon. He has to punish Trapper, and promptly tells Trapper just that.
The hell with that.
I'm tired of you guys trying to run this outfit. This time, there's going to be disciplinary action.
What are you going to do, Henry?
What is this? What's
Well, I had planned to name Trapper chief surgeon to consult on your shift and Frank's.
That's damn good thinking.
Yeah, but now I can't do it for at least a week. If I announced it now after what our new chief nurse saw this afternoon, you'd hear her yelling from Washington to Seoul.
Well, Houlihan starts talking to Hawkeye, and it seems that the good Major apparently sides with Burns to a ridiculous degree. Where Hawkeye thinks Burns is a crazy moron who doesn't know his way around an operating table or the human body, she thinks Burns is a great technical surgeon and military surgeon. Houlihan was pretty much born and raised in the army, and Burns seems to be the only person in the camp that is close to the military discipline she's grown to love, and that has probably blinded her. It doesn't help that she's talking to someone who, it's been established, wants to keep things as informal and loose as possible. Yeah, these two really aren't going to get along at all.
I wonder how a degenerated person like that could have reached a position of responsibility in the Army Medical Corps.
He was drafted.
Considering the dysfunctional nature of the camp at the moment, and the divide that leaves the two majors as pretty much the biggest enemies of everyone else in camp, it's kind of surprising that Colonel Blake is leaving for the day. Especially since this puts the two majors in charge, almost guaranteeing the place will fall apart before he gets back. Put on your helmets. This one's gonna be rough. Let's see now. Helmets. Here we are. Hey. Wait a second. This isn't an actual helmet. It's just a liner, for one. Oh, God, this is gonna protect me from jack shit. Let's see. Do we have anything better? Anything better? This should protect me from any of the shit that's about to hit the fan. Continue. Actually, they don't really do anything with their new authority. Just write a letter to command, trying to tell someone above them in the chain of command that things really need to change in the camp for the good of army morale. The hell? You two are in charge! Granted, I doubt anyone in the camp will really listen to the pair. Everyone's too busy celebrating Trapper being made the chief surgeon. Wait. Didn't Blake recently say that he wouldn't be able to do that for at least a week? Has a week passed since that scene? And somehow, Burns and Houlihan start having sex, and, well, I'd say this explains it better than I could. Yeah.
Oh, my...
You're shining that thing in my eyes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, he is such a sweet man.
Oh, Frank, my lips are hot. Oh,
Kiss my hot lips.
Lips. Hot lips?
We have got to share this with the rest of the camp. Switch it over.
As if that wasn't bad enough, they send the audio of that sex to the PA system, and soon Major Houlihan gains the nickname of Hot Lips for... On second thought, let's just move on and try to give the two majors some manner of dignity for the rest of the movie. After all, it'll take quite a few years in the TV series for Houlihan to gain some, and poor Burns will just get worse and worse until he leaves the show. I don't know who to feel more sorry for at the moment. Houlihan, who was pretty much chased out of the mess tent and probably went to break down and cry with some privacy. Burns for taking a hell of a lot of verbal blows in quick succession. Or Blake, being caught out of the loop and getting inaccurate but easy to misinterpret explanations from radar.
What they're saying, can you make it out?
Does that big ass of hairs move around a lot, Frank, or does it sort of lie there flaccid? What would you say about that?
Hawkeye's questioning the Major on a point of anatomy.
Very professional, exchanging ideas.
And, of course, Burns is caught punching Hawkeye for crossing one too many verbal lines, and then he's sent off in an MP Jeep in a straitjacket. Sure, he was an asshole in this movie, but I've seen worse. Namely his TV show version. But still, I can't help feeling sorry for him. I know I'm supposed to be on the side of the newer doctors, but dear God, they dealt with the annoying majors in a rather heavy-handed way considering what they were doing. And now, once again, back to surgery. Before we forget, this is supposed to be a medical unit and hit us with yet another mood whiplash. We're near the 50-minute mark of the movie, and I'm not seeing much of a plot at this point. It could have been a constant battle against the army discipline that Burns and Houlihan tried to represent, but that jeep's already left the camp. And now we're introduced to a problem with the camp dentist, Waldowski, a.k.a. Painless Pole. You know, the guy a lot of the camp was lining up to measure their dicks against earlier in the movie. Well, he's got a slight problem, that being, he's starting to think he's becoming a homosexual. He's getting hard-ons around guys and can't get it up around girls anymore. 1970s sensibilities and all that. So this is apparently something worth considering suicide over. So, in order to convince their colleague that killing himself is a bad idea, the rest of the guys have to figure out how to convince him that he's swinging for girls. Step 1, doing a mock funeral for him. And we end up hearing the theme song again, only in a more somber pace with a couple of lyrics changed, but yeah.
Here's your black capsule. Oh. Look, this thing works pretty fast, doesn't it? I think I better go lie down over there.
Well, I'll help you.
Through early morning fog I see visions of the things to be, the pains that are withheld for me. I realize and I can see that suicide is painless. It brings on many changes, and I can take or leave it if I please.
Step 2, get a girl to spend the night with Waldowski. Does it work? Well, you be the judge.
Morning, Painless.
Oh, hi, Hawkeye.
How's she going? Slept like a doll last night. Well, can't waste time. Big day. Got 2 jaws to rebuild. Come on, Sideman. Have a good day.
Yeah, I'd say it worked. I mean, the girl seems pretty dazed. The guy has a spring to his step. Kind of sudden and surprisingly easy to fix that problem. But, anyway, back to surgery again. Apparently a prisoner of war is pretty wounded. They don't have the right blood. Oh, never mind. Radar siphoned the blood out of someone who was unconscious. Granted, I don't think the guy he got it from is in any danger, and the guy who needed it was dying, but still, not my definition of a blood donor.
You all right? You look pale.
I gave blood twice today, sir.
You're not supposed to do that.
I fell asleep in the mess tent and two guys siphoned me.
And, of course, even after Houlihan has been effectively declawed for the movie and essentially isolated, apparently the rest of the camp isn't done pranking her yet. As someone who took quite a bit of bullying and insanity when I was younger, it's actually rather uncomfortable here. Good God, I want to give these other guys slack. I want to respect Blake, but...
This isn't a hospital! It's an insane asylum, and it's your fault! Because you don't do anything to discourage them!
What do you want me to do?
What do I want you to do? What do I want you to do? How about actually exercising your authority, you son of a bitch? I mean, look, I understand. You aren't really Army. You don't want to push anybody around. But still, you are in command here, and these guys are just... Oh, for God's sakes.
Why aren't you helping me? You should be right in the middle of this. You're the commander.
Instead of being punished, Hawkeye and Trapper get some R&R in Tokyo over some mistake that some senator made, and end up getting arrested for doing surgery in a hospital in Tokyo without telling the commanding officer of that hospital. They get out of arrest quickly, though, and somehow are able to push around the commanding officer of that hospital. Hell, they even blackmail the bastard. And for some reason, the last half hour of the movie is devoted to an inter-camp football game. Well, I came to watch this movie and to see what it gave the long-running and very successful TV series. And I have to say, it gave the TV series a strong skeleton, a strong base to work with. And the first season of the TV series in particular draws pretty heavily on the film for inspiration. The movie might have done better in the box office if it wasn't competing with Catch-22 in that same year. And as disjointed as the story might feel at times, it does still portray that this crew is trying to survive the horrors of war by going a little crazy to avoid going completely crazy. Would I suggest this movie to people who haven't seen the show? Yeah, though I would warn them about the fact that this was made in 1970s, you know, not quite the same attitudes we have to women and homosexuals, that sort of thing. Would I suggest this to people who've already watched the show? I'd hesitate a little, but I'd say yes again. So long as, well, you acknowledge that it ain't quite the same as the show. As for me, I'd prefer the TV series, thank you very much, and I'll start talking about the series the next time I can find the time between LPs and life. Oh, by the way, before I forget, the movie ends with Hawkeye coming into OR and telling Duke that he and him are going home, that it's over for them. And to be fair, I don't think Duke ever comes back in the series. He's one of those forgotten characters. Hawkeye, though? He's sticking out all of the series. Well, that's all I got to say about that. And all I got to say about the movie.
We deserve a little decent entertainment. God knows everything else around here stinks.
Right?
Enough! Well, now, looks like we're not the only malcontents in this tent.
Attention! Attention! Attention all personnel! Incoming wounded. Report to OR on the double. Sorry, folks. That's it for the movie.